Hello, Feather Snow here. Today I'm going to be detailing a fast method for gaining exotics that I have been developing over the past week. This was introduced with week 23 and is theoretically capable of getting you 800 exotics per hour. Now, this is not the easiest thing to get into. I'll just say that straight up. It is on Olympus, and it is called Migrating Sands Survey. I put that on hardcore, and as you can see, it gives you 200 exotics per mission. It takes about, you can get it down to 15 minutes per mission, which means there's a theoretical 800 per hour, but realistically, that will be closer to 20 to 30 minutes, including menus, and you might want to drink some water while doing this, so we'll just conservatively call it 400 exotics for people who are relatively inexperienced at running it. Now, to do this, you're going to need some advanced stuff. First off, you can see its location on the tree. You're going to have needed to complete 7 pillars, I believe, if not Spirit Walk. That's just going to gate it to people who are already near the higher end of character levels, which means you should have the materials in the workshop you need to do this. In the workshop, the only necessary materials you're going to have are going to be anti-poison vaccines. You can use anti-poison vaccine 1, they give you an hour of protection, and some sort of arrows. You could use the Shengang arrows, but the Icarus arrows are better, and they cost the same to craft, so invest in the better arrows. As for talents, this is pretty basic. I have a running character, so plyometrics level 3. Movement speeds, such as the first responder with a firewhacker, and then you're also going to need leather breakdown helps, but really just some sort of bow talents. So I have 20% damage in the bow tree, and then also in my solo tree I have that 10% damage and 10% reload speed. The only really necessary talent to do this method is going to be under survival resources, wood breakdown. Wood breakdown will be necessary just because you need to craft sandworm arrows while fighting the sandworm boss, and in order to do that you're going to need sticks. Sticks are really hard to come by in the desert, so chopping a single tree, getting like 20 wood, and then just using wood breakdown to get like a stack of sticks or something. Easiest way to do it, fastest way to do it. As for the actual mission, it's going to be pretty simple. We just are going to head here into the prospect, and I'll explain it along the way. Our loadout will be pretty simple. We're going to use one of those anti-poison vaccines and 2 arrow bundles. You can get away with bringing 1 arrow bundle, but I would just bring 2 so that you're not running tight on ammo while fighting the sandworm and trying to get those scales. I'm running the Lua Envirus suit, and then 3 mass dampeners and a survival backpack for a 20% movement speed buff in total. You can run this with a standard Envirus suit and no backpack if you want. It's just slower, that's all it is. I'm also running with the ST700 set for that 10% projectile damage increase, as well as the perceived threat reduction for running past scorpions. Again, don't need that. I developed this method using the Naneo armor set, but you could theoretically run it without any armor set. Gonna need an axe to chop a tree. That's pretty simple. They're pretty cheap. You don't even need a fancy one. I think this one is like 400 Ren, including initiation cost to buy. Shengang pickaxe. Again, nothing fancy. I just don't like picking 3 stones off the ground. I want to whack a rock once and get my firewhacker. Excuse me. And then you need some sort of knife. This is just for getting leather. You're going to need about 50 leather to make the arrows while you're fighting the boss. I'm using an Icarus knife because it has the highest yield, and this is my hunting character. You could get away with any knife above an MXC one, so like one of the basic hunting knives would work. Anything with just 200 yield from skinning you're going to want. That's essentially it. I'm going to confirm, drop in here, and I'll explain how we fight the boss and how we go about dropping the beacons to spawn in the boss once we get into the map. Alright, as we drop in here, I will take a moment to say that I'm doing this guide in a live fashion as I would on my Twitch streams. If you want to check me out, twitch.tv/onefeathersnow. I stream on most weekdays, Icarus, and I'll give live feedback, any advice you guys want, ask them in chat. I'm there all pretty regularly. But we'll be just doing this in that live style so that I can give you guys a feel of if I was giving you an actual walkthrough instead of the usual YouTube guides that you have to pause every 3 seconds to run around the mission. We're going to start out here by grabbing fiber and all of our stuff from the dropship. It's important not to forget the mission equipment. I have forgotten the beacons before. It's easier than you think. Make sure to consume your arrow stacks and then set up your inventory the way you want. Grab that wood I was talking about. Just the basics here. Getting our very basic resources. Now here in crafting, I'm going to grab a fire whacker. That's for speed, because I have those speed talents. I'll go in slot 5. I'm going to slam my anti-poison vaccine just to get it out of my inventory. That has 2 hours on it because it's level 2. You can get away with the 1 hour on level 1. This doesn't take very long at all. We're going to make some sticks here. I'm just going to make like 6 sticks. I don't know, 69, nice. We're going to make a wood bow too. And with that, we should have our speed from our fire whacker, and we should have a basic bow for getting an animal dead. Let me start running. Up here on my second monitor, or you could pull it up on any other second screen. Heck, you could tab out of the game to view it. I have Icarus Intel, which is icarusintel.com. I'll have it linked down in the description. I'm looking at the beacon locations on the map, essentially. I've memorized the terrain details, which is what I'll show you in this video, but if you need it, pull up Icarus Intel, cave map, location map for beacons, and you'll be able to see all of the beacon locations, not just location 1, then 2, then 3, like the survey actually has it on the map in-game. That's very helpful for getting this method done right. Essentially, we're just running east. That's all we're doing. We're getting out of B13 here, and we're getting into C13. Our first drop location will be in C14, so we're gonna make a... We're going a little more south than east. I'll take this time to talk about my in-game settings for fighting the boss. It's going to be nighttime when I'm fighting. This will require some... You might consider this cheesy, but some way to see at night. I have the Unreal Engine's configuration files changed to make the gamma at night slightly brighter. You could do this with a GeForce overlay if you have an NVIDIA card, or you could do it with display settings for AMD. I just placed the beacon there. That is in the circle, the first circle. Now here comes the tricky part. I'm going to run towards this oasis, but on the left side of it. And you see how there's this ridge here on the left side behind the oasis, and then it kind of splits into a V. Essentially what we're going to do is place the third beacon, which will be location 3, inside that V, but before we place location 2. Because otherwise the game would have us run all the way up north of the boss to location 2, place that beacon, run all the way back down here, place this beacon. We're wasting a bunch of time by doing that, so we're going to preemptively place the beacon right over here. So once we get right into this V here, I'm just going to kind of chuck it down there, and I'm going to kill this hyena conveniently placed for me. Ignore the fact that I didn't one-shot it. We're going to kill this for leather. We should be looking for about 50 leather, so we'll watch for that. From this, we're getting 37, so we'll need to kill one more just to be safe when we're fighting the boss. We're then going to start heading north, kind of along this line of sand dunes here. And we're going to go up to location 2, which is at the D12-D13 border. Right where the desert starts to flatten out behind that second sand dune that I have my crosshair on right now. There's a second hyena, how convenient. And this should give us about the 50 leather that we're going to need for the Yep, there we go. We've got about 64. That's over 50. We'll be fine for getting arrows when we're fighting the boss. Now past this dip here, we're just going to go down until it starts to flatten out a bit on the left side of that dune back there. And then we're just going to chuck down a beacon. That'll be location 2. It should tick, and then location 3 should tick because we placed that before, and we can just head straight south to the location of the shifting sands. For reference, this is where they are on the map. All we did is preemptively placed it in D14 before the actual mission prompt popped up. Now the boss should spawn right about here. Yep, that's what's happening. And we're going to try and shoot about 12 scales off. Every time it goes back down, all you have to do is get close to it to re-trigger it to come back up. I have never seen it dive fully into the ground on the first dive before. That's new. But it makes getting the scales easier, so I'm not exactly... All you have to do to get it to come up is get close to it. Now we did hit that anti-poison vaccine. What that's doing is making us immune to the boss's ranged attacks. We are not, however, immune to its close range attacks. So if I get too close to it, and I'll demonstrate this in a minute here. If I get too close to it, it will try and bite me. So I'm going to get too close to it right now. This is too close. It's going to spit poison at me, but there, it does that kind of bite thing. That's what we're looking to not have happen. So we're kind of just trying to stay at a healthy distance. I don't know about how far it is, but basically at the edge of where you can see the damage numbers is considered pretty safe. Basically, its head should be the width of your bow's crosshair, as you can see here. We're just going to keep pelting it full of arrows. We got about 15 Icarus arrows left, which means we should have collected enough scales at this point. I'm going to ignore the boss for this one cycle, and go into crafting and make myself a sandworm bow. Destroy the first bow. And then I'm going to use the leftovers to craft arrows. These sandworm arrows, we're going to make sure that we're on the Icarus ones. They should just auto-cycle to the sandworm arrows once we run out of the Icarus ones. And then we just start pelting it. I'll recap after we fight the boss, but essentially, that's what we're doing. We're crafting a sandworm bow using the sandworm scales that the sandworm drops. And then we're doing sandworm things like shooting the sandworm. That's really it. We're not taking damage from the boss because we have an anti-poison vaccine and we're staying in range. And we're not that worried about the local wildlife because they kind of suck at attacking us. I'm on hard. I don't know why the animals don't see me. They're blind. It's okay though, I'm not complaining. Gonna keep pelting it. That's all we're gonna do. It should die within the next 2 minutes or so here. I'll have chapters in the video, so from this point on, I'm just gonna be killing the boss. You can skip forward to the next chapter, or I'll have the timestamps in the description where I actually defeat the boss and start talking about just a quick summary. too close there. That's alright. The main problem with getting too close is not the direct damage it does from getting a single bite on you. It's the giant dust cloud that it pops up when it does the dive forward. That makes it very hard to shoot again. Then you just kind of lose the whole cycle of it coming up there. You do this enough times and it starts to add up, but once or twice is fine. And just like that, we're done. Right as we kill that bass, I'm not even worrying about it. I'm just running straight back to the drop pods. All we care about in this method is speed of mission completion. And now that we are done, we are done. We are leaving. So to recap on that boss fight, just in case you guys happen to whiz through it, all we did was we got to the boss, shot it full of arrows, collected the sandworm scales every time it dove back into the ground, making sure we stay far enough away from it that it's only shooting its ranged poison attacks at us. Then proceeded to... Excuse me while I deal with the scorpion really quick. We then proceeded to craft a sandworm bow from the scales that we were picking up, as well as 8 wood that we had collected earlier, and some leather that we had collected earlier. Once we got that sandworm bow crafted, it does more damage than the first crappy bow that we had crafted. So we switch over to it, and then we start crafting ammunition for it from the sandworm scales. That's just sticks and I think leather and yeah, sandworm scales. That's why we need the sticks. We just need them for the arrows. And then we just, every time the boss goes back into the ground, we go back, pick up more scales. Make sure we get the heck out of dodge before it shoots out of the ground, because you do not want to be launched into the stratosphere by the sandworm boss. The only thing you want launching you into the stratosphere is your dropship. So just make sure that you're staying far enough away from it while it's coming out of the ground so that it doesn't launch you, and make sure that you're staying far enough away from it in general so that it doesn't try and bite your head off. Other than that, once you're just crafting arrows and shooting it with your sandworm bow, if you run out of durability on that sandworm bow, you can repair it using a scale. That's not busted at all. And you can just keep doing this until you kill it. Yes, it's nighttime. Yes, it's very hard to see anything, but once you kill it, I mean, as you can see, we've got 15 minutes mission time, less than, like 14 minutes to complete this. I just returned straight to station. Everything in your inventory that's orbital will come back up with you. And just like that, less than 15 minutes in mission time, we have gotten ourselves 400 Ren and 200 exotics. That was only 120 Ren for the materials, such as the anti-poison vaccine and the 2 arrow packs. So you're looking at a net gain of 280 Ren and 200 exotics. And exotics convert to Ren, so just like that, we've got our rewards, and we're ready to go again if we wanted. That about wraps up this guide. I haven't really seen anyone covering this. Granted, there's not a lot of YouTubers who are paying attention to these super high-level missions, but hopefully this has shed some light for you guys out there, all you relatively advanced prospectors looking to make lots of money for those Inaris pickaxes and those orbital miners. Hopefully this guide has been helpful. This is Feather Snow, and I hope I'll see you guys on my channel or my Twitch again.